Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of The Development Project. I'm Caden, and I am pleased to announce that my faithful sidekick, Tristan, is back on the podcast with us. What's up, Tristan?
It's good to be back, man. Thanks for letting me step away for a week. I appreciate that. I missed this. As crazy as that sounds, it's been ever since April when we first started this. It's really been a joy to do this with you every single week and just chat about things. So, again, I appreciate you letting me step away. But it sounds like you had a pretty good time doing last week's on your bed, right?
Yeah, just laid on my stomach and talked about shoes. No big deal. I've had a couple of people actually ask me about running shoes specifically, I think because running has been something that we've been doing a lot more of in the programming recently. So I kind of expanded outside of the podcast on more of what I meant with the running shoes, specifically with like heel striking and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah, I think you have a ton of knowledge when it comes to form and those kinds of things. But I mean, I loved how you really did break down every style of shoe that most CrossFitters use. I thought you did a really good job, and I think I agree. I've already heard, even for the short amount of time I've been back at the gym, a lot of people have talked about running shoes. And I didn't know this, I didn't know that. It was really good to hear Caden shed some light on this or that. So yeah, good job.
it was only like 13 minutes. It's so hard to talk with yourself. Like it was like I was laying here on my bed talking to my computer. I'm sure if one of my roommates were to walk in, they'd be like, what the heck's going on?
Yeah.
It's a lot more fun to be able to stand here and talk to you and talk to other people and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But the reason we took the break, and I mentioned it in the episode last week, was because you and Becky have become parents now. So
Yeah.
what's that like?
Yeah, I mean, last week I got all that dad strength that just came fusing in. A little shout out to Laura Daniels. The shirt I'm wearing is Ben Smith's collection on the Rogue website, but the Dad Strong. So I got all my dad strength. I'm just kidding. But yeah, the last 2 weeks have been great. First week, my in-laws were with us. So when we got discharged from the hospital, they stayed with us for 6 days, Sunday through Saturday. And then my family came Sunday through Wednesday, but they went home, and then my mom actually stayed, and she's still with us right now. This is Friday, so she'll go home tomorrow morning. But yeah, man, it's been a really, really good 2 weeks. Gotten a lot of love from people, got a lot of support. Not more than just our family, our community, our friends, some friends back home, people I haven't talked to in a really long time. So that's been really, really great. Becky's doing very well. Sawyer's very healthy. And yeah, I mean, we've learned some things, but I would hate to say it, but things have gone really well for us. And I think as this conversation continues, I would just like to throw out there that, everyone, they go through things differently, right? They experience things on different levels. And so for us, there's been a lot of good. There's obviously been some tough stuff, but I'm going to try to focus as much as I can on kind of the positive things. And I hope that people are happy for us that we've experienced some really good things, not jealous and upset and not pinpointing at anybody or comparing to anybody. It's just what we've experienced in the last 2 weeks. So
yeah, and the goal of this episode, for those of you who are listening and watching, is specifically focusing on the fatherhood side of things. And we will be getting Becky on the podcast eventually to talk about her experience as a mother. So we're not necessarily going to speak on her behalf. We're going to let her have the opportunity to do that when it's her time. But right now she's just not ready for that. So we're just going to focus on the dad side of things, which I think is only fair because it's 50% of the whole parenting gig in the first place. So I'm going to just ask some questions that I'm really curious about, and I kind of want you to elaborate on as much as you can and hopefully give some good insights into where you're at as a new dad. So sure. The first one that I have for you is, what are 3 things that you've learned about yourself in the last 2 weeks?
3 things that I've learned about myself in the last 2 weeks. One, even more so what I'm actually capable of. I am a huge listener of Ben Bergeron, and for a long time I've tried to kind of take into consideration some of the things that he talks about, and he says, don't stretch yourself too thin. Only keep very small focuses. That way you can do those things very, very well. And don't do too many and then not do things very, very well. So for me, being a father now, that's a new role that I'm taking on. And I've understood that just in these 2 weeks, like everyone says, of course, less sleep, those kinds of things. But for the most part, 2 weeks in, as of right now, I've been able to maintain the things that I was doing before. Some things are going to need to make some changes, but that's more strategic. That's more business related things that it was coming anyway, and it's a good thing. So yeah, first one is just what you're actually capable of. Two, there's very few things that I've truly loved in this life that really make it worth it. And, the tireless nights and the sleepless nights, you almost don't even feel it. And really before Sawyer, Becky, and my business were the only two things that I could get no sleep and be so on fire, so passionate. Same thing with him. So that's another thing that I've learned is just, he is just so precious, and I've been wanting to be a dad for so long. Like this is seriously one of the coolest feelings I've ever had. Right next to, falling in love, wedding day, moving to a new city, doing some first, like buying your first house and taking out a loan to start a business. Those are big things, but this is not only right up there, but I would almost say it's above all of it because, it's a life that you've created. And I know that's cheesy and people have probably heard that before, but until you're that person, you just can't believe it. And, when you're 2 a.m. staring at this thing for 2 to 3 hours, and you really are engaged with it, even though it's not talking to you, you're so engaged, and you get so wrapped up around it, and you have all these thoughts and these emotions, and, they're all good, but you're just like, wow, God's amazing. I just can't believe that Becky and I made this thing. That's 2. 3. I'm not going to lie. I have one of the best spouses out there. But wow, we're an even better team. Seriously, we're an even better team than I thought we would be. I was waiting for some emotional evenings. I was waiting for some hormonal things to kick in. And, Becky's just been an absolute all-star. And, I don't want to pat myself on the back. I've tried to do my best. But, we've really, really been 100% team effort. We had one night where, a little bit of a miscommunication. And what was so beautiful about it was I apologized, for whatever I felt like I did, and just immediately looked at her and been like, look, I'll take this one. This is my fault. But there's too many other things going on right now in this world. And you and I can't be against one another. Like, we've got to be for one another at all times. And I'll take this one. This is my fault. I apologize. But it's team us, because if it's not, it's just going to make parenting even harder, So I would say those are the 3 things I've learned in just 2 very short yet long weeks. So
Love it.
Yeah.
Cool. What are some of the biggest changes that you've seen or had to make for the gym and your business?
Yeah, a lot of those things are coming. They haven't necessarily happened yet, but the one huge big change for us was ironically, it's consolidating our coaching staff. Unfortunately, that's not a choice that I was happy to make. It's not one I necessarily wanted to make, but for my personal life, easiest thing to say is I can't be the only full-time staff member anymore. I want to be home. I don't want to be that dad that overworked himself and wasn't home to see things and experience things. It's really funny. One of our questions of the day, I don't know if you remember, it was first or second week of June. The question of the day was, what was one thing that you never thought you would do that your parents did, but you do it? And mine was my dad worked too much. And I'm exactly a product of my dad. I work too much. I'm not home enough, and we've gotten away with that because Becky can come to work with me and she enjoys everyone and she enjoys the gym. But now we got a little one, and that's not going to fly. We can try to do everything that we can, but it's just not going to work that way. And I can't keep working the hours and taking on all the new responsibilities that I want to do to make my gym prosper and build. So the number one thing is, like, as I said, I'm getting off topic, sorry, is blending my coaching staff into more of a full-time and part-time staff, not just a part-time staff. So I am excited about that. And those changes aren't going to happen right away, but they're in the process right now. And there's some things to see, some things to, kind of try out for the next 4 months. I'm not in a huge rush since Becky does have the rest of the year to work from home, but beginning of the year, that's going to be a big one for us, is at least one full-time staff member.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited about that. I never thought that I didn't even think I'd be able to do that or want to do that, let alone have the opportunity to do that. So that just speaks to where our business is.
Yeah, that's the goal of business, is to be able to scale it up. So, I mean, you're almost 2 years in, or you're past 2 years in?
We're not even 2 years.
Yeah. So
December 1st will be 2 years.
So, I mean, it's pretty early to get to that point, but that's what you want. You don't want to be stuck at a place where you're the only person that's coaching all the time, or you're having to fill all these different gaps, but also try to find the time to be the owner and fill that role as well. And so now with having a kid, and you have coaches at your disposal, so making the decision to be like, all right, I like coaching, but I don't need to be coaching. I can do other things that's going to help the business move, and I have people that can fill these gaps for me. So I think that's a really valuable lesson for business owners too.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for elaborating on that. I would say my last one, it's really the only other one that I'm really trying to, it's providing. Okay. So it's that kind of a two-part. It's a 1A and 1B, I guess. Is one is my coaching staff and two is the members.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of the same idea. Is one, with that consolidation, it's actually trying to open up more opportunities for my coaches. So even my part-time coaches, we have a coaches meeting this Sunday. We'll talk more about this, and I guess I haven't said to all the coaches, so surprise. But I know I've talked to you and Nicole. We want to get our on-ramp like 24/7, always accessible to new members. And I know that you can't do that with your schedule alone. I can't do it, with my schedule the way it is. Nicole did it at a previous gym. She's very comfortable with it. You've been doing it for me. I would say 80% of it's been you, 20% of it's been me at best. So now with you and Nicole, I think that you two are going to do a fantastic job and really make this like top level on-ramp style. Not just okay, but really raising the bar and creating the standard for any and all on-ramps in Indianapolis. And I mean that. We've all taken our level one. That's what I want it to be like. Mm-hmm. That's just the way that it is. That's my vision for it. But I also want you guys to use your creativity, and we're going to sit down here real soon, and we're going to get to that. That's one. So that's kind of coach and member base. Others are continuing education. That's huge. And we've kind of just let our coaches choose what and when, but now it's going to be very deliberate. We're going to be giving coaches a lot of opportunities. And with that, hopefully we can create even more different types of classes, different types of modalities. I know a lot of gyms have like some type of burn or non-barbell. I mean, that's okay. And I guess that's kind of where we're going to go towards, but it's going to be way, way more specific. Just continuing to create really great athletes and opportunities for people who have really big goals and stuff like that. So really, really excited with that. And then I would say the last thing is just video and photo production. Mm-hmm. And that's where you and John come in. John kind of knows about that. I haven't said specifically, but there's just there's a huge market out there, and I don't see a lot of people taking advantage, us included. And I think that we can absolutely flip this one on its head and just crush it. I think that with your skills and your abilities and with what we have brewing at M4G with the development athlete and the development team training and stuff like that, I think that we can really knock this one out of the park. And so this will be something that I'm going to be putting my focus more into with you and John. And overall, I just think that that's going to really put us into another stratosphere. I really do. So those are three really, really big things that I'm looking forward to. And those are the things that are going to be changing, because all in all, this is not about bringing hours away from Tristan. This is about creating a remote opportunity for me. Working, this sounds crazy, but working more on the weekends from home. That's where my hours will be. Like a lot of people don't know, you do. I mean, man, just a few Sundays ago, you were with me. I worked from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., no stopping. I even meant to fast till like noon or 1. I fasted till 4 because I didn't stop working. That was 10 hours on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. And I'm not complaining. I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me. That's actually the way I like to work. I got so much stuff done. I got like 4 weeks of work done in 10 hours because I just didn't stop. I was passionate. I was on fire. I was on a roll. You and I got a bunch of stuff done for the development project too. But those are the things that I want to get into a teaching role. I still want to see my athletes, and I still want to better them and help them. I mean, that's a big passion of mine. But I'm also okay with doing it from afar, because I think that I can still make a great quality product by not always being in the gym, not being the face of this and the face of that, stuff like that.
Yeah, and we've had talks about, we're both futuristic, visionary type people. So as much, some people are like, you shouldn't think about the future so much. I love doing it because it gives me a direction, helps me to think about the things that could happen, and that's all positive stuff. I get not dwelling on the future if it's negative thoughts, but all good stuff. And
I don't mean to interrupt, but you just made me think of something. I think there's tons of things that are positives about thinking, but one of my biggest ones, it gets rid of complacency. If you're always thinking in the future, the one thing that I would say is don't think so much in the future to where you're not doing a good job in the present. Right. But once you can do that, you should always be thinking in the future. So what you're doing right here and now isn't a complacent thing. And then 5 years from now, you're like, oh my gosh, how did I not see that?
Yeah.
Well, you weren't thinking in the future enough.
You got to think,
there's got to be a balance. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So on the topic of fatherhood, kind of moving away from the business side of things and how the last couple of weeks have gone, I think an area that I want to try to hit on is this idea and this misconception that I hear floating around, but not anybody in particular, but just in general, that it's this idea that dads aren't necessarily as involved with newborns. Like they're the ones that, they sleep even when the baby's crying, and they don't help with diapers, or they're working too much, or they're doing this and that. And your experience so far has been kind of the opposite of that. So what are your thoughts on that whole idea? And do you feel like it's a misconception for a lot of dads out there, or is it maybe hitting the mark on a few? What are your thoughts?
Oh man, that's all that they're going to be. They're just going to be thoughts. I don't have any factual data for you. I guess really it's just one or the other. I think that unfortunately there might be some dads out there who that's really what they want. They want to go back to their careers. They want their wife or whoever, their significant other, to take care of those things. And I'm not saying that's not possible, but you have to explore all your options. Just like that, I would argue that there's a lot of women out there who want to be stay-at-home moms, who want to do everything, who want everything to be in their control. And I think that you would be surprised, just from a few people that I've had conversations with, or just even observed. That's a real thing. So again, I'm not picking people out, but that's definitely a thing. Another thing I would definitely say is just, I think what makes a really good dad is a dad who doesn't talk about what he does. And I think that's, you know what? I'm going to shout out some people. We got some really good dads in the gym. Really, really good ones. David Henderson, Rafael Diaz, Mark Kemen. We've got a lot of dads. I feel like I wish I could say them all, but I have Andrew Smiley. I've got some specific dads that no homo, bro. I've been in love with these guys. I mean, I've literally looked at them and be like, wow, I want to be a dad like them. And I hope they really do hear this podcast, because I have some new dads with me. Nathaniel just had one. A friend of mine who, obviously Callie, but Judah, he's a good friend of mine. And then right down the way, 5 houses from me, my buddy Milton, his wife Nicole was one of our members. So, I have some dads that we're going through the same process right now. But man, people that I've really leaned on and I've asked them questions. Jason Keane, that's another one. I love talking with those guys, man, because I've been seeing this a lot on Instagram, and maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but this whole don't be so positive around negative people or something. I maybe I'm saying that wrong, but it's basically like, you need to understand my feelings and let me be negative. And that's fine. I don't want to be around people who constantly live in the negative. I'm totally fine with understanding, like, look, you're in a hard place right now. What are we doing to get out of it? I don't want to come back to this every single day and I've seen that you've not moved the needle. I've seen that you've not even tried. And so what I'm trying to get at is parenting. I don't like the parents who are like, oh, I'm just trying to make you aware. I'm just trying to tell you what you should expect. I'm going to tell you right now, 10% of the information that I've gotten in the last 6 months, I've actually experienced. 90% of just the crap that people have told me, I'm like, why'd you tell me that? All you did was try to make me live in fear. Give me some, and I didn't experience that at all. But yet all I did was worry about that for months leading up to my son's birth. And I had nothing to worry about. It's like the information that is being passed along from friend to friend or parent to parent or whatever, it needs to stop. For me, I seek out that advice. So there is only a small handful of people that I have asked advice. I've had a lot of people give me advice without me asking, but there's a lot of people that I've not only sought out, but there's also people don't understand. I have mentors, man. I have Andy Grammer. Listen to his lyrics. I don't need to have a conversation with Andy Grammer to learn something. Ben Bergeron, I listen to his podcast, man. He talks about being a dad. I learn a lot from him. So it's like, I would assume that anybody who wants to be a parent, you're actually educating yourself, researching things. And so all this like, oh, I have to tell this person what to expect. Don't think you're so important or special that you need to be telling that person. Just like I hear a lot of women, every childbirth is different. Every labor is different. Every pregnancy is different. Well, guess what? Everyone's going to learn their different way. Every child's going to be different. You know, I don't mean to be negative and I don't mean to, again, bash anybody, but I will say that was one really unfortunate thing is just, again, you do try to understand. You're like, I think this person's trying to be helpful, but they're not. They're just giving me so much negative energy right now.
So maybe what we need to start doing for young dads is maybe not scare them so much at the start. I think that's what you're trying to get at. It's like, in order to keep dads from feeling like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so hard. Like I'm never going to get sleep. Like, how am I going to do work? How am I going to do other things? We need to stop. And I can't say we, cause I'm not a parent, but people who are already parents, stop telling them like, yeah, you're not going to get much sleep. They're going to be crying all the time. You're going to have to change. Like,
even the simplest, like you really know when somebody knows you, when they come up and say, Tristan, they don't have to say anything else. They just say, Tristan, you're gonna be a great dad. Thanks, man. That already makes me feel better. I want to be a dad even more now. Just because you told me I'm going to be one. I don't know if you're just fluffing me or if like you really mean that, but thank you. It's just really small things. Like for instance, Andrew, I remember he's like, hey man, I got some advice for you. And I remember thinking like, okay, here we go. No, it was good, positive advice. It wasn't just, he was like, hey, one thing that we did was we put a blue light instead of a white light in the nursery. That way, when we changed the girls, it was a darker light and it kept them sleepy and they could go right back to sleep. That's great advice, man. Like, thank you. David, Nathaniel, all these guys, they're like, hey man, I'm not going to tell you you're going to be tired because you already know that. I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to be so in love with your child that that's not going to matter. You're not even going to think about it. In bullseye, 150% right.
Bang.
I haven't cared crap about the little amount of sleep that I've gotten.
Your sleep has actually been pretty good still though. Like,
it has. So a little bit on that, because I know you've been
the Whoop group.
I know you've been watching me on the Whoop group. So the first week I was still in the 7 and 8 hours, but what I did was I consolidated. So it woke it would say like, okay, you've only been asleep for 3, but then I would go back after 2 hours and take another 2-hour nap, be up for 2 hours, take another 2-hour nap. And what I would do, I was just consolidate it all into sleep. I knew you guys would look at that and be like, well, he's sleeping perfectly. Yeah. No, not at all. Now this week, Becky was super kind to me. So she told me straight up, she's like, hey, I know you're going back to work this week. I will try to do as much as I can and let you sleep through the night. There is no such thing as sleeping through the night, even when you're not dealing with the baby, because they're going to wake you up. Yeah. Wednesday, I decided I just took it on myself. I wanted Becky to get some sleep because Monday and Tuesday, she did. She tried to let me sleep the whole night through. That was super, super sweet of her. Mm-hmm. But Wednesday, she was starting to have a little too much. And I was like, you know what? And again, it's a team effort, right? Teamwork, she did something for me for 2 nights. I wanted to relieve her on Wednesday. So even though I had to get up and go to work, I was like, nope, it's my turn. Thursday was a joint effort. That was one of our worst nights as parents. Just a kind of a scare. And we're not going to go into that. But, it was a joint effort. And then again, right back to Friday, she let me sleep through the night. Mm-hmm. It was really, really sweet of her. So the weekends, and we're going to talk about this, right? We went on our first date night last night. We had a really good conversation. We reflected. We talked about the future. We're super excited about the Fouard household. We're really excited about, honestly being by ourselves. Cause like I said, we've had parents these first 2 weeks and it's been great and been really nice to have them. And it's been fun to see their happiness and their joy cause they're all first time grandparents, so it's been really, really nice, but it's been a lot of hosting too. And that's been a little bit exhausting as well. So we're just we're really looking forward to our 3-person dynamic and what that's going to be like. But we're also really just excited with all the opportunities that we have as individuals too in our careers. So that's really, really exciting. But one thing that we're kind of going to sit down and talk about is, moving forward, once I sit down on Sunday and talk about future schedules with all my coaches, there really is going to be a trade-off of evenings because, I just can't stand it, man. And again, it's like you said, maybe it's a misconception, but there probably are dads out there that are like, yeah, I'm going to sleep. I just can't. It's like the development athlete. I can't program something and not do it myself. How could I ask you guys to do something and me not do it? How could I ask you coaches to coach certain hours and me not coach them? So it's the same thing. I can't sleep at night if I know that my wife's the one constantly getting up, dealing with the issues. And, one thing might sound super crazy, but the one thing that I've enjoyed most, and in fact, it's kind of had to think about it today, but it is the number one thing. I love it when I'm the one who has to get up in the middle of the night. And I know that sounds crazy and you're like, no, he's lying. No, I'm not. Because it's the same reason I love being a coach. I love to feel needed. I love the fact that someone wants to come to me and they're like, hey, can you help me? Not just because you're the coach here, but like, I want you to help me, Tristan. That's been a big love of mine over the last 7 years of coaching. I've really enjoyed that. It translates over to being a dad. When he's crying, when he's looking up in my eyes in the middle of the night, he needed me. And I love that feeling. I love that I can be the one to make him stop crying or help him stop crying or be there and do the thing that he needed to have be done to feel better or, feel secure or whatever, safe. So it's been one of the greatest things. And to be honest, this week I didn't get to do that as much. I went through some just mind emotional games with myself this week. One moment I was happy to be back at the gym with everybody. And then the next moment I was super sad and depressed that I wasn't home with my family. So yeah, lots of things.
Yeah. It's been really cool to hear you talk about all that kind of stuff. Cause I've been excited for you from the moment that you and Becky told me that you guys were pregnant. It's like, I knew as soon as you said that, I was like, man, they're going to have so much fun with that. That's going to be, Asher's going to have somebody to play with too. It's going to be a big, happy family. So it's been a really cool experience to see how you guys have handled everything and how you've been handling the gym. I think management wise, everything's been running very smoothly. I've been happy with that too. So I just wanted to take a moment to be able to highlight your perspective. And eventually when we get Becky on here, we'll be able to talk about her as well. So that'll be a great episode for all the ladies out there that are curious about, what she's gone through and what her plans are and how she's recovering and all that kind of stuff. So I want to finish on a lighter note. So I'm going to ask you, what are the top 3 qualities or things that you've noticed and learned about Sawyer so far?
I don't know if he's old enough yet. Okay. 3 qualities and what? Just 3 qualities that I've learned. Okay. 2 weeks in, he's a pretty easygoing boy. And I know, again, I've heard a lot of things like, oh, well, it gets really bad after 2 weeks, whatever. I don't know if that's true or not. We'll see. But he's just an easygoing baby. He does not sleep all the time like we've been told. And that's what's kind of fun is when he's awake, he's not crying. He's awake and it literally looks like he's just trying to observe the world. He's trying to observe you. So anyway, quality wise, he just seems very, interested. He does seem like a pretty laid back baby. So, I could see that carrying over into a personality trait maybe. And then other qualities, man, I really don't know. I really don't know if there's a third quality, not
Mm-hmm.
at this age, not at this young of an age, but yeah, something that I hope is that he has the quality of just loving his parents. And, you know, I mean, that would be, I know that seems a little bit strange, but I don't know if we're going to have more than one. And I have no problem with being best friends with my son. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that, you know, I hope that we can grow into someday. So
Yeah. Speaking of growing into stuff, I think he might have bigger feet than you. The boy's got some big
you know,
feet.
for how small he is and how much he weighs, oh my gosh. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen pictures, his hands and feet are ridiculous. I know I was so proud of myself. I think I was in 6th grade when I finally had bigger feet than my dad. He had size 11 and a half. And I remember in 6th grade, I had size 12 finally. And then in 7th grade, when I grew, oh my gosh, I think it was 11 inches. I had size 13 feet. I never looked back. So I've had size 13 feet ever since. So I would love, I mean, you've seen my shoe collection.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going anywhere. So, I mean, if he has big feet like me, I'll pass the shoes down to him.
That's awesome.
We'll have Nano 24s by then. So,
Oh
I mean,
my
he can have
gosh.
all my old ones.
I wonder if they'll actually name them that. That would be ridiculous.
That would be.
The Nano 95. Speaking of 95, they're coming out with a 90s pack for the Nano 10. I'm excited about that.
That was a good segue.
Yeah.
I don't even feel like you did it on purpose.
I didn't mean to, but I saw it earlier today and I was like, ooh, those are going to be cool.
Nice.
I can't wait for that. So, okay. Thank you
I
for talking
appreciate it,
about
man.
that.
Yeah,
That was really
absolutely.
fun. So, we want to make sure that you guys hear about our sponsor before we sign off. So, LRX Apparel is our sponsor for today's episode. They're a clothing company. They have really awesome shirts, awesome hoodies, pants, shorts. They just released shorts. So, head on over to lrxapparel.com and use code LIVEPRESCRIBED for 15% off of your next order. Show them some love. We really appreciate it if you guys go over there and let them know that we sent you. So thanks guys for listening. Leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes if you think about doing that for us, and we will catch you in the next one.